Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today, we're finally going to be talking about the midfielders. I've been delaying it. It's been like the whole week. In the back of my mind, I've been thinking like, do we sell anyone? Who is it going to be? Like, is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 5? Like, midfielders. It's Chelsea's strongest position. It's where Frank Lampard has the most quality players in the same position at his disposal. We're going to take a look, first of all, if you haven't seen the videos where we talk about the perfect defense for the 2020-21 season and the dream attack for the 2020-21 season, I advise you go and watch those videos first, because the graphic that I'm going to put on the screen in 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, this is the team that we have built to this point. We have got two variants. We have got a 4-2-3-1 and we've also got ourselves a 4-3-3. And today, we're going to look at the midfielders that we've currently got at the club. There is absolutely no argument in anyone's mind that the central of the midfield at Chelsea is by far the position of strength that we have the most abundance of players in. There's an overload. Midfielder by midfielder, we're going to take a look at the players that we've currently got on our books. There are a couple of players we're going to talk about who have been on loan, who might be considered in Frank Lampard's first team selection for next season, and then we're going to discuss whether or not there's any need to actually bring in any more players and offload any of the current players that are in the Chelsea squad in the central midfield areas. So we're going to start off with the man that I've talked about a lot on this YouTube channel. We've discussed the potential of selling N'Golo Kante numerous times, and it's because this season Kante has not had the ability to recover from an injury that was mainly what's going on here? Kante's not really had the time to recover from the injury that was inflicted to a more serious extent in the Europa League final against Arsenal. Yes, Kante was brilliant in that game, as we always expected him to be, and Chelsea lifted up the trophy over our London rivals again. But N'Golo Kante has not been at his best this season. We've seen moments and flashes of brilliance, but fitness is the biggest concern for Frank Lampard when it comes to N'Golo Kante. He's been playing so many competitive minutes at the highest level at an intensity that is very different to that of other midfielders in similar positions. Kante plays a game where everything is ran at 100 miles an hour, although it seems as though sometimes it isn't, because he seems to see things before they even happen, such as his interceptions and his ability to win back the ball. He can also go forward. We've seen him develop his dribbling game, particularly under Sarri, and then this season under Lampard. We've seen Kante be a lot more creative when he's on the ball. Now, whether or not we sell him is still up for debate. Lampard does not want to sell him. I don't want to sell him. The question is only about, like, could we sell him and make a load of money for him? But is there really any point? N'Golo Kante on his day is one of the best midfielders in the world. So we move on from N'Golo Kante. The next player we're going to take a look at is Ross Barkley. Now, we mentioned Ross Barkley in yesterday's video where we talked about whether or not he's got a future at Chelsea. I do think that there could be a future for Ross Barkley at Chelsea, but looking at the players that we've got coming back from injury, looking at the development particularly of Mason Mount this season, Ross Barkley's involvement at Chelsea is very much going to be highly form-based, and it may well be as a fringe player. However, with no Premier League goals though this season, you do wonder if Ross hasn't had enough opportunities to be able to show Frank Lampard, particularly now that Lampard has had a couple of months to just analyse everything because there's nothing else to do with your bloody time. Is Ross Barkley going to be in Lampard's plans? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The next player we're going to look at is, of course, Billy Gilmour. This man is still very, very young. However, the two games that we've seen him prominently start for Chelsea, Billy Gilmour looked like he was more than ready to take on the reins in the Chelsea midfield. People are saying that they want to see a combination of Gilmour and Kovacic. They want to see Gilmour and Jorginho, Gilmour and Kante. People are talking about Billy Gilmour as a potential starter in Chelsea starting 11 next season. Now, of course, this series is all about building the team that I think is the strongest as the best Chelsea 11 possible to go and challenge for the title. Billy Gilmour has shown that he is definitely ready to take that step up to be playing high-level football week in, week out. Billy Gilmour is going to have done enough in those two games. It's impossible to say, and I think that anyone who is overhyping Billy Gilmour at this point would probably need to see him play a lot more games at the top level for us to be able to make a judgment as to whether Billy will be that man who can be guaranteed to start week in, week out for Chelsea to challenge for the Premier League title in a position where there are so many options at Chelsea's disposal. Now, obviously, the next man we're going to talk about is Jorginho. This man is potential future captain material at Chelsea. He's got 4 goals this season, majority of which from the penalty spot, 2 assists as well. One of them was absolutely gorgeous, and in a video later on this week, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. 2 assists for Jorginho as well. He is that leader. He's got the vision. The through balls, they're absolutely beautiful when he plays them, but Jorginho is often the man who plays the pass before the pass pass that equals the goal. And Jorginho's role within this Chelsea team has been far more defined this season at Chelsea, and I think that if Azpilicueta is losing his place to Reece James, I feel as though it sounds like I bash Azpi in every video. I don't. I'm just like, look into the future. Reece James is the future, so if Azpi does lose his spot regularly, Jorginho is that natural captain to come in and fill the void. The next man we're going to look at is arguably our player of the season, the Croatian, Mateo Kovacic. One Premier League goal. It's not... Oh, the gunshots are back. Hello, boys. Mateo Kovacic has been Chelsea's best player this season. We've seen him get 3 assists in the Premier League, but the thing about Mateo Kovacic that I absolutely love is that there's virtually nothing bad to say about his game. Other than the fact that he doesn't score that many goals, it's actually something that we're seeing get better as football disappeared, as my head starts to sweat again. He can dribble out of any situation. It doesn't matter how many players are trying to win the ball off of him. Mateo Kovacic is always able to carry the ball, and he is that person transition the play from the defence into Chelsea's attack. And I think that moving forward, the teams that we're going to build today here for Frank Lampard's Chelsea in the best possible 11 to potentially win the title, Kovacic is probably going to feature in every single one of them. I think the man brings so much to Chelsea's midfield, and I think he's a key player to build Frank Lampard's future teams around. So the next man we're going to look at is of course Mason Mount. We've used Mason Mount in a lot of attacking formations if we're using a 4-2-3-1, be it on the left wing or playing as a number 10. The best thing about Mount's game is his versatility. Mason Mount is always pressing the opposition. If oppositions have got the ball in defence, playing out from the back, can pretty much guarantee that the man who's going to be chasing him down is going to be our boy Mason. If you haven't seen the video that Chelsea have posted this week on their social media, Mason basically gives this woman called Maureen, who's a Chelsea fan, a little call. It's great. You guys should definitely go and check it out if you haven't seen it already. We're seeing Mason Mount come into corners. I'm not sure if I like this quite slow loopy corner that he does, but we know that he's going to be very good from a dead ball. I think that Mason needs to be a little bit more creative with his shooting. I think sometimes he should pull the trigger when he doesn't necessarily do so, and I think as he gets older and as he develops in this Chelsea team, we're obviously going to see him improve his strength as well. Can they stop firing these flipping guns? So another man that we could be seeing in a Chelsea midfield 3 or even as a number 10 is Ruben Loftus Cheek. This man, we haven't seen him play football in a Chelsea shirt for a year. It's going to feel like a new signing when we finally see Ruben play again. It's going to take a while for Ruben Loftus Cheek to get back to the match fitness and that strength and the ability to just barge players off the ball left and right, to be able to carry it forward. We've seen him score some beautiful goals in Chelsea shirts as well. He's great at arriving in the box, brilliant at carrying the ball. He's got a good passing range as well. Ruben has the potential. We're still talking about potential with Ruben. He's been around for a while, but he has the potential, in my opinion, to become one of the best all-round central midfielders in the country. I think he's got a huge future at Chelsea and a huge future for England as well. That's Ruben Loftus Cheek. We're going to move now and talk about another player who could potentially be coming back from a loan spell to feature in Chelsea's centre of midfield next season. Now, what we've seen this year is that Billy Gilmour, he didn't go out on loan. He was told by Jody Morris and Frank to stay with the first team. And if you look at the midfielders around him, the likes of Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante, these senior central midfielders are the perfect role models for Billy Gilmour to be able to not only mould his game off of. I see lots of elements of Fabregas in Billy Gilmour's game as well. It's been great for Billy to be around the first team, and finally, after a patient season, he got his chances. Started the games against Everton, started the games against Liverpool. Now, you may be thinking we've already spoken about bloody Billy Gilmour. I'm talking about Conor Gallagher. The man went on loan to Charlton. We saw him score some early goals in the season. He's got plenty of assists as well. He then went on to move to Swansea, and Conor is a player who, despite being inexperienced, despite being a teenager, still being very young, he is one that Chelsea will be looking at potentially to join the first team squad next season. Even though we're talking about players today, and I like everybody that we've spoken about in Chelsea's midfield today, everybody offers something different. There is a potential that Chelsea may be offloading some of their central midfield players this season. The question is, if we do that, do we need to bring someone else in, or can promoting someone like Conor Gallagher and then relying even more heavily on Billy Gilmour next season, is that a way for Chelsea to be able to free up funds for the defenders, for the attackers that we're talking about to improve this team? I personally, from watching Conor Gallagher play, definitely think he could be ready to take things on at Chelsea. That being said, I do think we'll see another loan move. I think he probably will go on loan to a Premier League club, but one thing I will say is watch this space with Conor Gallagher. I think the man is an absolute baller, and we could be seeing him break into the Chelsea team far sooner than some of us may expect. Another geezer that's gone completely under the radar is the man that went to Leipzig and put in the most genius display in centre-back away at Spurs in the Champions League. Of course, we're talking about the man from Wales, who's had an absolutely fabulous haircut. He looks like a different geezer. Ethan Ampadu is been a very, it's been like a lone spell at Leipzig. We saw that one game against Spurs that really stood out above anything else. He didn't get that much game time in the early parts of the season at Leipzig, but when he has played, Ampadu is a natural leader. Now, I don't know if we're going to see him play in a midfield or potentially see him playing in defence. There's definitely options with Ethan Ampadu, and I think the likelihood is when we look at Chelsea's strengths, they are in the central midfield position. So I think naturally, if Ampadu's going to have a future at Chelsea, he's probably going to be trying to ply his trade playing from the back. So we've spoken about players individually. It's time to start looking at how this could actually look in a Chelsea lineup. So the first one we're going to go with, we've got the 4-3-3. Of course, if you haven't watched the videos building the defence and the attack, I'll talk about it first. Kepa in goal, Alex Telles left back, Tomori left centre back, Koulibaly right centre back, and Reece James right back, moving into the front three of Christian Pulisic, Tammy Abraham, and Hakim Ziyech cutting in from the right on his left foot, leaving a midfield three, and this is extremely tasty. N'Golo Kante, Mateo Kovacic, and Ruben Loftus Cheek in his favoured left central midfield position. I honestly think if you look at this full starting 11 on the screen right now, this is an incredibly strong Chelsea team. As you'll notice, we've not included Jorginho in this team. Jorginho could take the place of Kovacic, but then we're removing who's been Chelsea's best player this season. You also could remove N'Golo Kante from this team and put Jorginho in there in a central role with Kovacic playing more on the right hand side. There you've got the players that can carry the ball forward. You've got Jorginho who can be that man in the block in front of the defence, and then you've got Ruben on the left hand side of that midfield. Another formation that I've decided to dabble with a little bit is a 4-2-3-1 with Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho screening the defence, with Mason Mount playing in a number 10. He can offer you that press alongside Kovacic as well. Pulisic on the left, Ziyech on the right, and Tammy Abraham up front. This is another very, very strong option. I think that moving forward, we could see Frank go with like a 4-5-1. We've seen him use that before. That would enable us to quite easily fit in more players into this team. The issue is always going to be that someone's going to miss out. And when I think about who are the top 4 midfielders right now at Chelsea Football Club, Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic, and probably Ruben as the central midfield options. And it's very unlikely that Frank's going to be able to find a way to fit all 4 of those in at once. But the good news is, Chelsea are most likely going to be playing Champions League football again. Touch wood. This, yeah, whole flipping place is made out of flipping wood. Touch wood will be in the Champions League next season, meaning that minutes, football's a meritocracy, in my opinion, or at least it should be. If you're playing well, you stay in the team. And that's why players like Billy Gilmour, players like Ross Barkley, Ethan Ampadu, if he gets given the chance when coming back at Chelsea, players like this, if they're playing well, they need to stay. And I think the difficult thing at the moment, particularly for me, is that I like each of our midfielders individually. And it's very hard for me to always put the club first in terms of what's for the best. And the best thing for the team right now may be to offload some of these midfielders so that we can actually give the minutes to the Mason Mounts who are playing well, to the Ruben Loftus Cheeks who are playing well. The obvious ones at the moment that are being spoken about potentially leaving the club: Ross Barkley's been linked with West Ham, Jorginho been linked with Juventus, Kante's been linked with moves to PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid. I don't really want to see any of them go, but it's been so hard trying to fit these midfielders into what is a definitive starting 11 at Chelsea. Someone's always going to miss out, and there's always an argument as to why they should play over somebody else. So I think the one thing I can confirm from making this video is that Chelsea do not need to go into the market for any more central midfielders. We've got some brilliant, world-class central midfielders at the club already. If we see the best again out of N'Golo Kante, be it for 1 more season, 2 more seasons, then we've got one of the best midfielders in world football. N'Golo Kante is so good. And I think myself and a few other Chelsea fans have probably forgotten that over the course of this season due to injuries. So having finished off all 3 of these videos, building the dream defence, building now the dream midfield and the dream attack at Chelsea for next season, trying to keep it as realistic as we can, the key area, in my opinion, where Chelsea need to strengthen in order to be able to challenge for the Premier League title next season, it's in defence. And I think the key thing, if we bring it back to video number 1, where we were building that dream defence for the 2020-21 season, if we can get a centre-back leader, I honestly feel as though Chelsea could be creating something where next season, yes, we're 4th right now, but we're so far off the top, the title's not even in the conversation. The next step for Chelsea is to move back into that conversation where we might not necessarily win the league next year, but as long as we're more competitive, as long as at this point next season, we're not like 30 odd points behind Liverpool or whatever stupid figure it is. We need to be closer, and I think that what we've got on the screen right now, what we've spoken about, not only are some of these transfers realistic, yes, it's going to involve sacrificing some players that we may love at Chelsea, but the overall goal is always to see Chelsea competing on all levels for the major trophies. So anyway, this has been a stressful one for me. You can probably sense in my voice that I've been a little bit stressed about making this video. I seriously do not know what the best option is. The only conclusion I came to is that we don't need to spend money on central midfielders. During this whole topic this week, where we've gone through all three major positions, I've not mentioned the likes of Coutinho, who's another potential signing we could have. Coutinho would be a winger. That's just it. To draw the line there, Coutinho is another option on the wing. Chelsea have got a very bright future ahead of us. I hope whatever happens to the end of the season, it results in us being in the top four, because if we don't finish in the top four, the ability to pull players to the club is nowhere near as high as if we do. So if we're talking about bringing in world-class players to elevate Chelsea to the next level, Champions League football is absolutely essential. Anyway guys, thank you for watching this video. I've got a massive video coming out either tomorrow or on Monday, so stay tuned for that one. I'm absolutely knackered. I've been filming for like 6 hours today, so hopefully you guys did enjoy this. If you did, leave a like rating, and as always, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the video, what you thought of the options that we had on the screen, and what your dream Chelsea 11 would be for next season. I will see you guys in the next one. Subscribe if you're new. Catch you all later. Bye-bye. Flipping